G'day, my name's Gordon Dedman and welcome to another episode of Bushcraft Survival. In today's episode we're going to be going on a short 24-hour overnight camp. We're going to have a look at what gear I'm taking and how to pack it. We'll be looking at how to set up camp, how to light a fire and clean up and leave no trace after it, a little bit of toilet etiquette. We might even have a fish as well. So stick with me and let's see what happens. So before we go out on our overnight camp, I thought I'd give you a look at some of the equipment that I'm taking, and we'll have a look at how to pack it as well. Always remembering that knowledge and skills always trumps equipment. Equipment is secondary to knowledge and skills. The pack I'm using is a Caramore 45 litre Sabre pack with two 12.5 litre side pockets. This pack is quite big. And I really don't need this much equipment or this pack just to go on an overnight hike. But I'm just giving you an idea of some of the equipment I would take. And this is the equipment I'd probably take for going for a week as well. It's that really I don't need much more than that. This is more than enough for an overnight hike. So in the middle section, if it was wet and inclement weather, I would line that with a large dry bag. But it's not, so I'm not going to bother to do that just for the moment. But I've always got it there just in case, and I would always insert everything in the middle pack inside a dry bag. So I'll just put that there. So the first thing that I'm going to put in the pack is my sleeping bag, which in this case is a Softy Merlin 3 sleeping bag rated to +5 comfort. I'm not a big fan of a lot of ratings for sleeping bags. I think a lot of them are over exaggerated, but this is a good brand and I'm familiar with the rating system, so I generally tend to stick with a brand that I know and I know what the rating system is, and then it's a military grade as well, so I use this in the military as well. So I'm going to stick that in first. So that's going to go down the bottom next to my back. So there's nothing heavy here, but we want the heavier items right next to your back, so it's close to your center of gravity. We don't want them on the outside of the pack because it's not going to be as balanced. So to sleep on, I'm using a blow-up Snug Pack 3/4 insulated sleeping mattress. If it was really hard going in rough country, I would choose a closed cell mattress because obviously you can't puncture it. To put my sleeping bag in, I have a Snug Pack Special Forces bivy bag. This is a waterproof sleeping bag cover that is also windproof. Down the back of my pack, which I always have in my small day pack, I've just got an all-weather survival blanket which are made at Survival Supplies Australia, and that's just more of an emergency blanket which has multiple uses. Inside that, as I have in my day pack, which is separate to this, and I always have a smaller day pack I can take on small day outings, I've just got an extra woolen beanie, extra pair of wool socks, and a woolen top. The nights are getting chilly and I've also got a neck buff. And that's in extra to what I'm wearing, and that goes with me all the time, no matter where I am or what climate. I'm going to put my dry bag, which is a 45 litre dry bag, in there as well. Now, other than the clothing on my back, I have just some extra warm gear. I've just got a Swazi fleece and a Fjällräven wool teddy, because the nights have been very, very chilly. So I'm going to stick them on. If it was wet, I would put those inside my dry bag. I've got my woolen beanie, and even though I have one of those in my emergency clothing pack, I always have one of these at the ready. I've got my possibles pouch, and in that I've got a head torch, I've got bandanas, duct tape, cordage, parachute cord, about 25 metres of paracord, a whole stack of different things in here. Sharpening stone for my knife, Leatherman, more parachute cord. There's some duct tape, bandanas for multiple uses, and we've done episodes on the many uses of a piece of cotton cloth. I have a spare mini compass in there, so quite a few different things in there. Head torch as well. I have a spare head torch in my pocket, and that goes in the top so I can access it easily if I need to. I have a towel, which is a shamag, and I have my toilet kit. In my toilet kit is just toothpaste, toothbrush, and just some hand sanitizer, some cream. Not that I'll even need that, but just a toothbrush. That just lives in that pack, and it's so small it's not even worth worrying about the weight that it takes. And there's my towel. So, and on top of that, I'm going to put my ground mat, which is going to be my just a ground sheet to give me an extra bit of a dry footprint on the ground, and that will go in on top of everything. My pack, actually in my pocket, I'll put it around my front, is my compass. I always have a compass with pacing beads and a whistle on it. That will also be, when I get to where I'm going, I'll take that out of the pack and I will actually put that around my neck. So for now, they can just go in there. So that's all of that stuff is in the main compartment of my pack. So I'm going to, it's good, these packs have a nice drawstring top, which is fantastic. It keeps everything contained, and another strap that you can tie that down. So in one of the 12.5 litre side pockets, I'll have just about a 2.5 litre cooking pot, and it's made by the Zebra, and they make some really great cooking pots, variety of sizes. That's a nice, simple, easy one. Now, I'm not taking any food, so this just lives in this pack, so I'm not really expecting to use that. I'm going to take some fishing gear to get some, hopefully get some fish. If I don't, it's okay, it's only 24 hours, it's not even worth worrying about. On top of that, I have my stainless steel water bottle and nesting cup set. This is a clean canteen 40-ounce stainless steel cooking pot, single wall. You have to have single wall, otherwise you'll burn a hole. An absolutely essential piece of kit. And to that, I've just got one of the Snow Peak cooking sets, or any sort of metal nesting cup is what you want. A nesting cup for everything to fit into. And that has a lid, and I've got my Pathfinder pot stand. So with that, I've got a spoon in there as well. I've got so many, I can really, I've got so much variety in there. What I'm going to be filtering my water with is Milbank Bag. So we'll talk about that when we get there, but we've got a Milbank Bag to filter our water, and then I'm going to boil it in our cooking pot. So that's my water filtration system. I also have a dry bag, a 5 litre overboard dry bag, and that's going to enable me not only to keep things dry as an extra if I need it, but I'm going to be collecting some of the dirty water to take back to camp if I need to put in there to save going down to the water each time. I'm not sure, I'll see what the lay of the land is like when we get there. So there's a couple of things there. And if I need for extra water to store, I've got a plastic collapsible fold-up bowl, which just tends to live in this pack. So in the other side, I've got my fishing kit, which comes with me all around the world. And in this I've just got a couple of small hand lines. You'll see this later. I've got a lure on one of them at the moment. I've just got some lures and hooks, some spare line, mosquito head net and a few other bits and bobs. And that's sort of a great kit, and that sort of comes with me all around the world. So I've got a few things in there, and we'll talk about that when we actually throw a line in. I don't know what's going to be in there yet because I haven't been to the area, but we'll have a look and see. But anyway, that just lives in there, and I've got most of the things I need inside that kit. So I'll stick that in the front. Next to that, I've got a Grail water filter and a water press, which is a great method of filtering water on the go. If it's clear, I need to filter it in the Milbank first, and then that gets rid of all waterborne pathogens, including chemicals. So I can take that on a trip where I can't boil water. So I'll take that in there. So that's probably about 750 mils. So I'll stick that in there. On the other side, I've got my brew kit. In that I've got tea, coffee, a little container of powdered milk, a little thing of honey, so just enough to make a brew. So this can't go out in the bush without having my brew kit. Absolute must to have your brew kit. Great source of morale to be able to make a brew. I have a very small, just a personal first aid kit, and that's just got like headache tablets, that sort of thing, tampons for extra things. We've got a mini fishing kit in there. It's just like a personal med kit, which very rarely ever gets used. And lastly, in that top pouch, we have my poncho, which is a military style poncho. This is a Helicon Tex poncho. They're great with grommets, so you can use it as a shelter. It's going to be my rain gear and a shelter. So it's a shelter, rain gear, and it can be inverted to collect water. So poncho is excellent, and that fits in the out. So that's going to be my rain gear, plus it'll go over my pack as well while I'm wearing it. So ponchos are very versatile. So that's going to be my rain gear, and I tend to cut down on room. That goes in the side of the pack so I can get it out really easily. Now also I have my IFAT kit, which has in that kit, which is I have some emergency bandages, snake bandage, just some other emergency things, and as well as a tourniquet for for anything that's serious, like any serious blood loss. And once again, we do courses on how to use on our TACMed Wilderness First Aid course. That will travel on the outside of my pack so I can get to it in a hurry. I don't want to be rummaging through my pack to get that out. In the very top of my pack, because it's going to be the very first thing I need when I set up my camp, if I've got a Alton's 3x3 tarp, and that's to keep the water off. I generally prefer to travel with a smaller tarp. I usually got the Helicon Tex, but this was what was in my pack, and I forgot to swap it over. So we've got a 3x3, which is a little bit larger than for what I need, but that's okay. That's what we're going to use. And that fits in the top, and so it's the first thing I can get out, and it's very easy to access. So that's everything packed away. So I'm going to do those up now. So I've got a few different ways to configure this. So what I like to do with my IFAT kit is I just stick it on top here. So I'm just going to stick the cable through that, like that. And this allows me to get to this fast if I need to. Medical things, yeah, you don't want them inside your pack. They need to be easily accessible. I normally carry this on my person, on the belt, but because I'm carrying the pack, it's actually going to get in the way and run against, so that's why it's not inside. and that won't fall any further than that. I've got some ties on here if I could just stick it under there. I just like it putting it there because it's more secure. And there we have it. That's my pack. That's what I'm going with. And even though I'm only going for an overnight, that would be good to take for a whole week. There's more stuff there in a week. In fact, that's all I do. The only thing I'd add to that, if I was going for longer, is I'd probably add a couple of ration packs for a week. And then hopefully to catch the rest of my food and drinking. So really, you don't need any more than that. Maybe a different, an extra set of undies and socks and things like that, and that's it. So there's a look at what I'll be taking on this trip. It's coming up to 4 o'clock. So 4 o'clock, the sun moves across, all celestial bodies move across the sky at 15 degrees an hour. Now I've measured 15 degrees on my fingers. So between my thumb and my middle finger, that's 15 degrees. Those two knuckles are 2 degrees, and a fist is approximately 8 to 10 degrees. So I know it's 4 o'clock, so all I need to find out where north is find out where the sun is, which I can see, and I know the sun's tracked from right to left. I just need to find the sun, and counting back using that as a span, 15 degrees. Now, how we get that is 360 divided by 24 gives you 15s. So all celestial bodies move across the sky at 15 degrees an hour. So all I need to do is put one edge of my finger on the sun and count back. That's 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. So north is straight out there, and that's where I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk straight down there, and that'll be heading north, and I'm going to go down, find a place to camp, a nice flat, a nice area, set up camp. Then I'll go and get some water on the go, get a fire, get some water on the go. We'll see what other things we get up to, what other bushcraft tricks we can have a look at, and just enjoy a good night. So having found north, how do I walk in a straight line there? That's pretty easy. All I need to do, the sun, heading in that direction, the sun is on my left cheek. So as long as I maintain the sun in that position, I'm walking in a straight line. Another way I can do is I have a look at my shadow. The shadow, because I'm walking north, is pretty much straight to my right. So as long as I keep the shadow on my right and the sun on my left cheek, I'm walking in a straight line, in which case is that we know the sun's actually setting west. The sun is setting in western arc, so that's going to drop down. But this time of year, being April, it's actually setting with a lot of north in it. Once we get to June 21st on our winter solstice, the sun's actually almost rising and setting northeast and northwest respectively. So it's actually setting with a lot of north in it at the moment. But if I keep the sun on my left cheek, keep my shadow on the right, I'm going to be walking north in a straight line, and that's pretty easy for me to keep a straight line as long as I can see the sun. Well, we've come down to this creek line that I could see on the map, but this ground I can just tell looks really steep. So I don't really want to set up camp there. So I'm going to I can see that the ground is a bit more, it's a bit flatter down there. So I'm going to head in that direction. So basically I'm going to head westerly. But I'm seeing something up here that's quite interesting as well. I can actually hear deer barking in the background. But this is a classic deer bed and a deer rub. So male deer particularly will rub their antlers on here as a sign to mark their territory, and they'll do it, they'll usually use the same tree periodically over and over. So this is a great sign. Not only can I hear them in the distance, but there's lots of sign. He's had a pee down here, and this is by the look of this sign, which looks quite fresh. This tree is used often, and this is actually one of the huckiers by the look at this. But yeah, so it's a classic sign of deer. It's a good sign, particularly for hunting and that type of thing. Just coming down to the water here, I'm going to have a look down here to see where the water is, because what I want to do is find out a place in the light so we know where we're going to come and get our water, go up to camp, and then I've done the recce beforehand. But one reason, even though there are flat spots down here why I wouldn't want to camp down here, is that you can see when you get a lot of water, and sometimes water can occur in an area that's a long way away from where you are, and you can see the height where water's been rushing down here quite a lot to carry these logs down. So this is the sort of place you definitely wouldn't want to camp, even if it's flat or in a hammock. So we're going to go do a recce down here, just find out a water spot and some fishing spots, then we'll go and set up our camp. This looks really nice, actually. Nice field down here. Looking forward to throwing a line in here. Hearing some water around there, but this is great. Just had a turtle jump off that rock into the water. But yeah, I think this looks like a good place to get some get water from. Okay, what a water point. Good fishing point. Can't wait to throw a line in. However, we need to get some bait. So I'm gonna have to go and dig some bait, but we'll get camp set up, because I hate setting up camp in the dark. Get everything set up, then we can always have a fish and then see what there is. Get some water on the go and just get set up for the evening. And we're gonna head straight back up this way, which is the back way we came, so we're gonna be heading south, straight up the hill. Sun will now be on my right as I head uphill. Well, it doesn't matter where you go in the Aussie bush. This becomes a problem. We've got a nice big orb spider up here. I'm not sure what she is, but she's the female. All the males, these little fellas. And she's painstakingly made this web to catch all the prey. So sorry about that, but they're used to it. I'll try and get out of this. They're harmless. You'd have to really piss one off to get them to bite you, but I feel more guilty that I just messed up her hard work in that, but she'll go back to fixing that up. So a lot of people freak out about those things, but it's just part of partial being in the bush. It's not going to hurt you. It's just a matter of, as soon as you feel something, just back out, go the other way. And sadly, we'll have to let it get back to work to fix what I destroyed. Okay, so I've just woken up from the bottom of the creek. We've got our water source, which is about 80 to 100 metres away from here, just using a military army technique of bracketing and estimating distance. 100 metres is a known distance, so just by guesstimating 100 metres, I'd say estimate the water from where I am now is about 80 to 100 metres away. This is where I'm going to set up my camp. I've got a nice area that I'm having a look at for a fire. Somewhere to sit, and I'm guessing I'm going to put my camp there. It's flattish, quite flat, and it satisfies the 5 W's. 5 W's is this is Dave Canterbury, the Pathfinder School, talks about this, and it's a great easy way to remember the 5 W's of shelter siting. And they are widow makers, look up, to make sure there's no deadfall that can come crashing down. So any old gums particularly shed their limbs, so make sure you're not under one of those. So widow makers, so there's nothing here that's looking a bit dangerous that way. Wind, we don't want to be at the top of the hill where it's windy. We don't want to be at the bottom of the hill because cold air sinks during the night. It'll be significantly colder down there tonight, so I don't want to be down there, even though the water's down there. So up here feels a little bit warmer, and it is starting to cool down. Wood, we want to site our shelter near wood for obviously firewood, but if we're building a natural shelter, we'd want to site it near where there's plenty of resources to build our shelter with. Wildlife, we don't want to set up our shelter on a game trail. There's lots of sign of deer and kangaroo here, so you wouldn't want to be on a game trail. Not only because it's their thoroughfare, but also because if you did want to hunt and trap those animals, you'd want to be away from that. So we've got widow makers, wind, wood, wildlife and water. There's our water source. We want to be near the water but not on it. So of course mosquitoes, things like that, and in Northern Territory in Australia you don't want to set your camp too close to the water because the threat of crocodiles is very, very real. So we don't have to worry about that where we are in New South Wales, but we do need it for water. And the only other W, which actually I can't think of a word that begins with W, and that's flat. We want an area that's flat because if you're sleeping on the ground, there's nothing worse than having an uncomfortable night's sleep. So the best I can think of is without slope. So we've got widow makers, wind, water, wood, wildlife, and without slope. And with that, I've satisfied all those. I'm pretty happy with that. We're going to call this home for the night. We're going to get some water on the boil, collect it through the Milbank bag, get a fire going, get that on. So while that's boiling, we can hopefully get a shelter up before nightfall. Right. Okay, so we're going to go down to the water. I'm just going to get out what I need, my immediate needs for water. So I've got my Milbank bag for water filtration. Going to get my metal cooking pot, which is going to be my method for boiling water. In my clean canteen. And put that away. I've got a dry bag for collecting extra dirty water so I don't have to make as many trips down to the water. So that's all I need for now. Then we'll get a fire on the go when we get back. This can be filtering while we're doing that, and then we can get some water on the boil while we're setting our shelter up, which will be right here. This is obviously a great water source. Is it safe to drink? We don't know. There could be any number of pathogens in here. It could be a dead animal. So the best thing is to always purify your water. But before we purify it, we need to filter it. So I'm going to filter it in this canvas bag, which is a Milbank bag. We've looked at this in other episodes. So what we're looking at when we purify water, we're looking at getting rid of the 5 water contaminants. And they are turbidity or particulate matter, all the stuff you can see, silt, sediment, all that stuff. Parasites and protozoa, which the main ones are Giardia and Cryptosporidium. Bacteria, viruses and chemicals. They're the 5 that we need to get rid of. We're going to filter the water, then we're going to boil it, and that boiling gets rid of 99% of all waterborne pathogens except chemicals. But we're out in the wilderness, so you don't have to worry about that. So we'll get this, I'm going to carry the dirty water up in this so we don't have to come down as often. So what I'm going to do firstly is I need to soak this bag, which is going to be fun from this angle. So without falling down the bank, I'm going to have to get my guts here. So Milbank bags need to be soaked first. Give it a good soak. And that's good to go. Now, ideally I have my water pot. We're going to cart this up the hill, so I'm going to fill it up as much as I can. But that's why I'm filling this up. Oh. So I'll just hang this for the moment. This is already starting to work, but we're going to lose a lot by the time we get up there, but that's okay. That's what this is for. So I'm going to collect the dirty water in here, then I can put it in that when that runs out. So thinking ahead, you just have to soak them. That's why I brought that down. So always keep a 5 litre dry bag in my bag. It's part of my kit because multiple uses. One is collecting water. Remember, using a dry bag, pull up the ends, roll it several times, do up the clip. We got that. I'll save myself a trip down to the water. I'm back at camp, just looking at a place to hang the Milbank bag. So this is a nice, it's not too high, because this needs to be done ahead of time. Now, in using a Milbank bag, you fill it above the water line and you wait for it to get past this black line here. Then you know that's sort of a timer, so that you don't want anything from the outside of the bag going into the container, only what's in it. But because we had to do a walk up from the creek, obviously some of that water's gone. So, but that's okay. So I'm being careful, I don't want that touching the tree. And I'm going to put that right there like that. So I'm going to top this bag up, but I don't want to spill what I've got in this bag into the clean water. So I'm going to take that away, prop this open with a stick, and then I can fill that quite easily. Let's see if that's going to work. Yep, that'll be fine. Move that for the time being. So now I can fill that. So anything that keeps you dry also is great for holding water if it's waterproof. But because I pre-soaked that bag, it's going to work. So I do that up again. Everything's went through the bag, so there's nothing on the outside. I was careful not to spill it, so now I can put that in there. I'll hang that up. Find a spot where I can hang that so it's not on the ground. That'll do for now. And I've got a cup to fill with water as well. So what's coming out of there is filtered water, and all we need to do is boil that and we're good to go. Boiling is the best way of making water safe to drink. Okay, we've got the water filtering. What we're going to do now is light our fire. Now, before we light the fire, we need to make sure the area is cleared to bare earth, and we've got at least 1.5 meters. There's no wind, which is great, so we're in proper fire clearance. So let's clear this to bare ground first. We're looking at 1 to 2 meters from the center of the fire and above it. There's nothing above it. So I've chosen this area because I can feel this, we've got a nice seat here, and it's just a nice flat area where I can sit down on the ground or on the seat, and I've just got a nice comfortable place to be. So don't forget to check with the local regulations whether you're allowed to have a fire, and that we already have done that. So there's no fire danger. It's coming into, it's autumn. So make sure you do all of that stuff ahead of time. Going to dig just a slight pit. Just by digging into the ground, it'll just contain the coals. Oh. He's going to come in handy with some bait for fishing. So I'm just going to put him up there. He's edible too. And that's all I need. Yeah, I can get in there. So what I've done here is I've put down a platform of dry dead parallel sticks. Now there's three reasons for this. One, it's an early heart for the fire. Two, it allows air and oxygen to get in underneath. But most importantly, it's a insulative barrier against the cold ground. And your success or failure in fire lighting can depend on this. So we lose heat through conduction to the cold ground when we sleep on the cold ground. Same thing happens with a fire. So particularly in wet, cold conditions, this is essential. So it's just good practice to get used to putting down a platform of dead, dry sticks. What we're going to do now is get some tinder, some kindling, and some different layers of fuel. Then we can get our fire going nice and quickly. Generally, when you're collecting tinder, always collect from dead standing, particularly things that are vertical. Okay, that's dead. See, something like that, because if it's horizontal, it's going to harbour moisture. Now, it's dry condition, it doesn't really matter at the moment. Kindling is dead matchstick sized twigs. It'll take a flame from a match for a count of 5. That means you can, if they're not small enough to take a flame, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they're not igniting, it's not kindling. The kindling you buy at the service station, the thick, that is not kindling, that's small fuel. So a lot of people don't realise what kindling is. It needs to be matchstick size. It will take a flame within 5 seconds. The wetter the conditions, the more of this I need. So we've got our fire lay components. The last thing is tinder. So what I'm going to use from a tinder, there's a few different things around this area I can use, but one is the turpentine tree, or Syncarpia gumorifera. And this has a thick layer of bark around it, all the way up, including its branches. We have this up in northern New South Wales as well. And it's actually a fire adaptation to protect the tree from fire. And most just like paper bark, but if you shed those layers away, it actually makes really good tinder. So I'm going to take it from the back here, just so not to scar the tree. It's not going to hurt the tree. So this stuff here, and of course this can be used for cordage as well. So plant identification is key, not only just for food, but for resources. Knowing your plants and learning, of course, for every plant you know, there's 10 you don't. So the process never stops, it never ends. So this is what I've got, some of this. And all I need to do is crush this up, and this is going to make excellent tinder, which will take a spark. Get my fire going. So we've just collected our tinder from the turpentine tree. The outer bark, which is very fibrous, actually can make string out of the inner bark of that tree. And by buffing that up, anything that's good for string making automatically makes good tinder. There's my tinder bundle. I've got my platform, tinder bundle, pile of matchstick kindling, and different grades of fuel from little pencil sized, thumb thickness and beyond. And there's enough wood at hand for me to grab as I need. This is enough to get my fire going. I'm just going to quickly make a pot stand because I'm going to collect our water. Once we've lit it, put our pot on to boil. So let's go and have a look for a pot stand that is going to satisfy my needs. I'm going to cut something green because I don't want the wood to burn. Of course, it's going to be over the fire for quite a while. So I'm going to make a pot stand, but I need something green for this because obviously it's going to be over the fire. Trying to get something straight, preferably with the side branch, but I can't find anything in this immediate area. So I can see something straight, and I'm just going to notch it and demonstrate another way of using that, using a couple of skills. But I need to use a green one. I've selected one. There's an acacia, might be a dilbata. There's loads of them here, so it's not impacting the area by taking this down. Absolutely not. There's so much of it here. I'm going to use my Barco Laplander saw for this. Now, a lot of people taking axes are a dangerous tool. Unless you're making a log cabin or you're in the Arctic, there's not really, particularly in Australia, there's any need to have an axe. And you get a wound from an axe, it's serious. So I'm going to cut this off right at the base. But there's lots of things on this tree. I just haven't got, there's a few things here. This straight section is what I'd like to use. I could use that, looks quite nice. Gee, I'm going to cut that off there. Always cutting to the outside of the body. A straight section here. That's the bit I'm going to use. But I've also got some hangers in this, and not to save wasting it, just something I can get off the fire. I can use a stick for my pot. So by taking this section, cut that there. So when I'm cutting with a saw in any sort of cutting tool, I'm always cutting to the outside of my body, always staying away from this danger area. You've got the femoral artery there, not that you'd probably cut that with a saw, and all of the our vulnerable organs and bits are on the inside of the body. So we cut to the outside of the body because it's much safer. So here's our hook, that's the way it grew. I've now got a hook here. Tools always go away. So now I've got something to hook things off the fire. With my knife, nice strong grip. So I'm going to use a thing called the chest lever grip. It's easy to do that higher. I can't do it because the camera's in the bowl. So this is going to enable me to cut, this is going to enable me to get things off the fire. Here, this is going to be my pot stand because it's straight, so I'm going to looking at the end, I'm going to hammer into the ground. So I would say this end. So I'm going to put a point on it. So once again, outside of the body, cutting right up near the handle. That's the business end where I've got the most power. And I slice. Go, get some of that bark off because it's only going to mushroom up when I head it into the ground. So I'm beveling the top because a stick is a bunch of fibres, so I'm taking off that end part so when I hit it it's not going to split. Let's see the way that naturally wants to hang that way, so I'm going to put a notch in there, and that's going to hold my pot hook. So I'm going to just put my knife away and just find a nice log. So I'm cutting across the grain in a seesaw fashion. I've actually used that notch. It is a bit close to the edge, but that's okay. And just chipping down to that notch. It's just a spot for my pot hanger to hook. Always thinking, if I was to slip, where is the knife going to go? Using a thumb assisted grip. Hear that chipping out. That's a little close to the end, but I've deliberately done that because there's a little notch stick in there anyway, and that should be enough to hold my hook. All we need to do is make our fire. Okay, so we're losing light pretty fast, so I'm going to quickly put our pot stand in with the notch that we've notched. I'm looking at the height. I've got my pot hanger. I need to have enough clearance, so I'm going to hammer that in at about that angle. Displacement stick is important because that's going to stop pushing down any further. Then my pot will hang over like that. But before I do that, I'll get this fire going. So, once again, when using a ferro rod, the striker moves, not this rubbish. You see so many people doing that. Is the incorrect way to use a ferro rod. Once again, the knife doesn't move. I'm using the sharp 90 degree. Another reason why you don't want saws and serrations and all that rubbish on the back of a knife, because then you can't use it for other purposes. So a good 90 degree edge on the back of a knife will allow me to strip bark and do a whole stack of other things, as well as use a ferro rod. Okay, so I've got my Tinder bundle. One strike, one flame. If you need, it should be strike, make an assessment, strike, make an assessment, strike, make an assessment. If it's not going after 3, it means you need to change something of your Tinder or your technique. So I'll get into the centre, make sure it's buffed up, right into the centre, nice and low. Flames want to go up, so I need to hold them up. Need something to grow on. While that's burning, I put my knife away. Ferro rod, which is lanyarded to my belt, goes in my pocket. I get my first layer of kindling. I'm going to break it in 2. Actually, I'm just going to hold in 1 over the top. There's a few ways. This way I'm not just dropping it straight on the fire, because I'll snuff it out. So I'm letting oxygen get in there. I'm not burning myself. When the flames come through the top, I can just gently let that fall down. Flames are through the top. I get my next layer of pencil size sticks, and I'm going to crisscross them on the top as neatly as possible. I get a few, the next layer, flames come through the top. Once the flames come through the top, I can add my next layer. See, I've kept them nice, crisscrossed, and it's not a mess. Now I can go around in, say, teepee fashion, and all that does is just making sure the apex falls. I don't want to create like a house so that it doesn't fall on itself. It needs to fall as the fire burns. Now I can put my pot on the fire. Can adjust that to get the flames. I want the flames underneath, but that's okay, it's just starting. There's a bit of moisture in some of this wood, that's why there's a lot of smoke, and also bark harbours moisture. But now I can set up my shelter. I've got a fire going, got water on the go, and that'll be boiled in no time.